All right, I'm going to hop over to us, though. I'm going to hop right away. Oh, and I have my morning title still up, and I got a
fourth like.
Nice. That's well done. I got the one thing I have not done is a Stream Deck button that switches from morning to radio to regular.
Ladies and gentlemen,
I'm going to work that out.
And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Now, live from Chicago, the Hal Sparks radio program Mega Worldwide.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
Hal Sparks, actor, comedian, and multimedia personality.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Hal Sparks.
All right, let's do this.
Well, welcome to the show. Hi, everybody. How was your week? How you doing? What's going on?
How you doing?
How you doing? Johnny Million's with us at Johnny Million on the Twitter machine. And then, of course, it's Johnny Million on Twitch, twitch.tv/HalSparks, and twitch.tv/It's Johnny Million for all your infotainment needs, I suppose. But we're, and he and I are doing a test this afternoon to see if we can set up a co-playing rock thing between us.
Did you get your hardware?
My stuff's already hooked up. My stuff
you've
is
already got. I'm
already hardwired.
You're already like hardwired Ethernet.
Yes. Oh, of course.
Nice.
For this, yeah. I mean, I have
Listen,
for all the problems. All the problems I have had to solve in the last few years.
That's not one. Yeah.
No, Wi-Fi is not going to be one of the variables that I throw into my mix, especially going forward, because I'm holding this up on the show, so you won't be able to see it. Johnny Million, can you see this little device? You can describe it to the radio audience, perhaps.
Yeah, it looks like a shock collar that you put around Hal's neck to make sure that he doesn't roam away too far while you're walking it.
Don't talk out of school. That was our secret.
What it looks like, my man.
It's a Wi-Fi deauthorizer, and you can also spoof Wi-Fi with it, and you can also get people to log on to a fake Wi-Fi using a device like that. I have a special show coming up in the on my AI show where I'm introducing people to the devices that are in the world around them that they may not be aware of, and that's one of them. This is a little. If you ever see me wearing this thing out in public, don't ever sign on to the Starbucks Wi-Fi near you, because it ain't. So let's just be
terrifying.
Oh, it's very terrifying. It's just the beginning of it, my friend. So, but that's another story for another stream at another time, in another place, in another pair of pants. This has been one of those weeks where we vacillated between the sublime and the disgusting. There was so much kind of like fun, silly good news in terms of the DeSantis camp is just on a complete collapse.
You know what? If you want DeSantis to lose support, just put him on the TV.
That's right. It's amazing.
Just put him on and ask him an easy question.
Right, and he'll get mad about it because, by the way, for two reasons. One,
he will get indignant,
which is a good look.
Any question,
which is it's not snowflakey at all.
No.
when you start pearl clutching right out of the gate, it's I don't know. I mean, I've always been confused, and maybe we can settle some of this. But the right wing. There's some baffling corners of it. One of them is this like attachment to machismo. This idea that like they all see themselves as kind of I don't know, frontiersmen with their hardy frontier wives who both can build a house but know their place. Yeah, right. And they're sort of perfect Christic children that never get drawn into the gay agenda, whatever that thing is. So they have this idea of their like they live in a little mud house of their own making outside the Alamo, and they fought off the Mexican army all by themselves. And yet, the people they elect and the people they choose to follow are an entire contradiction to that mythology. Trump is a flatulent slob. He is He's physically always been in terrible shape. He has a terrible processed food diet. There's nothing about it. He eats well-done steak with ketchup on it like a child.
And Hal Vickery is sending us a super chat to celebrate the Ron DeSantis crash and burn in front of the world.
Oh, it's help him, Rhonda. Help him. Rhonda, oh, thank you so much. Yes, the Rhonda, please contribute today to the Help Ron DeSantis Crash and Burn Fund. Our matching donor Hal Vickery has given us a gift. There's a consistency to it that I could almost let a couple of them, skate by in the background. If it was just Ted Cruz, who looks like a middle management guy who cosplays Wolverine, at bars outside of Comic-Con because he couldn't get a ticket, just kind of scam on comic book geek chicks, and who are underage, by the way. Like, this is the vibe. With the voice of George H.W. Bush. I kid you not. I don't know why there may be some sort of a Texas thing. Is it just because you have to speak over there's all sorts of low rumble going on there, and so everybody has this kind of pinchy high, redneck porch voice. What y'all doing down there? It reminds me, Ted Cruz has the same
redneck porch voice. I like.
You know what I'm talking. Well, do you ever play the game? Did you ever play the game Redneck Rampage?
No.
Oh, it's one of my favorite video games from back in the day. My dear friend Chris Bono and I used to while away the hours playing Redneck Rampage. Redneck Rampage is one of those like first-person shooters with crap graphics back in the day from the Doom engine. But your character was this super skinny, bald redneck who carried a giant revolver. It was basically a Magnum. It was unmarked, but it was a big silver gun, right? And he only, because it was early programming, he only had a few lines he could say. Your character couldn't talk and have big bits of dialogue. And the idea was aliens were coming down to probe the rednecks and they were fighting back. It's a hilarious concept and it was really fun. And there were only two characters. The skinny guy who just says, "Get off my land." That's all he says. Your character, whenever he shoots, just goes, "Get off my land." And then there's a giant fat guy like the Lenny and Mice and Men who just goes
rabbits.
Yeah, all he says is papaya. I don't know why it's papaya. I think it was just kind of gibberish, but he just papaya. That's all he says. And it was a fun game and we hung out over him. I don't know why, but that like nasally redneck voice has taken over Republican Southern politics.
That's not good.
Everywhere throughout Texas. It's super weird. And then, there are some folks where it makes sense that the Republicans clamor to them. You've got Jim Jordan, who used to be a high school wrestler, and he's so muscly he can't even fit a jacket on anymore. And,
the guy who can't hold his head still?
No, that's Paul Gosar. Paul Gosar is the guy who I think makes the best case that Pervitin is making the rounds in the Republican Party again. And I would say that if indeed some people have said he has Parkinson's and other stuff, he denies this. I would say that if he did, I would not make fun of that aspect of it.
No, of course not. Oh, wow. Colonel Klink is also donating to the Ron Crash and Burn Fund.
Oh, thank you.
Did you know that Colonel Klink watches your show?
I didn't. I know nothing about him watching. That's amazing. So Gosar's the guy who is constantly moving his head. And the only other answer, if he does not have some sort of physical malady, which he says he does not have, so we will take him at his word, is that he is cracked out of his brain on drugs. That's the only real reason, because it's not like a personality trait you would develop, right? You wouldn't go, "Oh, the chicks dig it when I waddle my head back and forth."
Thing. Oh wow, Carol Cobb is throwing down also.
Oh, Carol Cobb,
get off my land, guy.
Get off my land. Yeah. So, God, now I'm gonna have to.
Dale Dickey. That was the character actress, Dale Dickey.
Oh, in what?
That's they're apparently the vulnerable get off my land person.
Oh, well, wow. If they did the voice on that game, that's amazing as well.
Get off my land.
Get off my land. But the point I'm trying to make is that looking at the clamoring over Donald Trump, this second generation rich kid who crapped away his dad's business, who is, the mythology of him being a businessman is what skated him into the White House. And it is a myth. It is in no way true at this point. It is just like anybody who still believes Donald Trump is a good businessman is selling it to themselves every time they say it, because you can't actually think that, except if you think being a tax cheat is being a great businessman. There are some that believe that, and that's clear. But this right now...
Yeah, you're not wrong. Some people are like really cool with him cheating on taxes.
Right, because
They're like, well, yeah, good for him if you can get away with it.
Well, you're getting them revenuers off my land. So who are the two biggest guys in the Republican world right now that everyone is saying, without these people, we can't survive? Without Trump, there is no MAGA. Without Tucker, there is no Fox. And the two of them, New York, second generation rich kids who, one of which wore a bow tie to work for a decade, only works because he wants to, because he's the heir to the Swanson frozen dinner fortune. And the only reason he hasn't blown it the way Trump did is because he chose not to get into that business at all. He knows his limitations. At the very least, Tucker knows he knows nothing about the business his family created. And yet, here they are, the stars of MAGA. Two second-generation rich kids who did nothing to create the wealth that seeded their entire existence, living on the illusion that they somehow know something special about politics or business, which they absolutely do not, because as we will show, Tucker's record, beyond the fact that he has been caught lying and they have to, so much so that they have to call his show entertainment to get out of defamation cases before, that he ended up costing the network he worked at 7 times his yearly salary in a single payout. And there's going to be another one. And then there's going to be another one. And another one. Yes, there's going to be. So we got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, now with 100% more Johnny Million. These folks, maybe, why the dweeb thing, MAGA? Why? Why do you love dweebs so much? Explain. It's adorable. Some people are bringing up the Steven Crowder. Yes, some people are bringing up the Steven Crowder in the chat. And do you know about him, Johnny Million? Have you seen that stuff?
I saw that he was the subject of one of your recent highlight posts, but I didn't get into it. What's going on?
So Steven Crowder is missed his calling as a 90s shock jock, just like Glenn Beck. And he just was born in the wrong time. And so he's in politics now. And he would have just been in being a skeevy jerk in 1987 to 1992. But the world for those kind of people is in YouTube politics. Okay, that's where that skill set moves to, and it's like hitting the right wing story points, the agenda points with a friggin' mallet every day. That's what he does, and he's built up a machine. So much so that the Daily Wire tried to pay him to join their team. They got a gathering in the park, and Ben Shapiro stood on a giant, scaffolding and went, "Can you dig it?" holding a piece of wood. And they wanted to pay him $50 million to join their
10 seconds.
Thank you. And he said no, because he's already making that in the next 10 years, or he was.
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Welcome back to the show. So we were talking a bit during the break about one of the other examples of the sort of right-wing hero sphere that's having a rough one. It's been a rough week for the messaging machine on the right, I have to say. Sorry, is there a audio issue some folks are saying?
It was about a 15-second audio glitch, and the messages came after it was already fixed.
Gotcha. Okay, good. All right. I thought so, but I'm just checking. So It may just be because there's we're louder than usual. So we'll see if we can fix that a bit. But so one of the other people that's had a rough ride of it this week was Steven Crowder. Now, Steven Crowder, if you don't know, and you shouldn't, because who cares? As I was telling Johnny during the break, to try to catch him up to speed, he was born in the wrong era. He should have been a mid-'80s shock jock around, a low-level man-cow, degree, I don't know, tier? Yes, a man-cow tier shock jock. That just says sleazy stuff and does sleazy things and stuff like that, and always skates at getting nearly kicked off the airwaves, that kind of stuff. And that's actually the sales point.
We got another giant super chat.
Oh dear, thank you.
Not a self-made millionaire. And he'll still send a super chat through.
Oh, that's amazing. You guys.
They're so nice.
Yes, people are chiming in on I get awful vibes off of Crowder. Yeah, and you're right too, because there was always something. First of all, the guy wears a gun at work. I think they're sponsored by Walter, the gun company, and so he wears a holster and has a gun in his holster all the time. And they work out of a warehouse park, an office park, right? Where they have their studio. Like, calm down. You're not in a demilitarized zone. Unless, of course, you know that they're, I guess, his staff are homicidal maniacs, which is entirely possible. So maybe he knows something about the people that work with him, and that's why he has to do it. Otherwise, it's ridiculous cosplay. But anyways, he's always kind of, been one of those dudes, but he does these, he's most known for these, there's only two genders, change my mind things, where he'll set up a card table on a college campus.
Is that him?
Yeah, that's him. That's Steven Crowder. And so he'll...
The meme guy?
Yes, he's the meme guy, right. But he does these long-form debates about stuff. And then it's essential, most of the time what they do is they just show the slacktivist that comes up and starts getting mad. And, sometimes they show the whole form, whatever. I mean, I've never seen one where his argument is convincing genuinely. I only find that he goes to campuses where he knows that everybody will just get incendiary right away or upset right away or jump right to talking points right away, and he knows what's coming and he can mess with them. So it's a setup, basically. So, but he's known for that. So a video came out this week of him berating his wife while she was 8 months pregnant.
Neat.
And yeah, and I was saying on my live stream when we talked about it, because I didn't show it on the live stream, because I have to say, once I watched it, I was, Johnny Million, I've seen a bunch of stuff for this show, both, funny and enraging across the entire spectrum.
I can't imagine watching a fraction of what you have to watch.
And that's stuff I don't air. And then the Telegram stuff that I watch from the pro-Russian and pro-Ukrainian battle stuff to keep up on what's going on there. It's some pretty brutal stuff. And I will get what I will call mini PTSD from some of these things, where I'll be walking around the house and some of these video pieces will pop into my head and aggravate, upset, or enrage me. That happens with a certain amount of regularity. And by the way, it happens to your favorite MSNBC television hosts all the time. So next time you see him, if you're in person, just go, thanks. I know it when you're standing over you're washing a dish and you're like, you swear out loud. Yeah. That's why. Yeah. So the video comes out because he's in a divorce. And then he threatens to release his wife's mental health evaluation. Cool. Yeah, nice. Like like a man does.
Right. Yeah. Because it's all about how you look in the public eye when you're having a breakup.
That's right. And again, he's one of these guys who he works out fairly regularly. He's a buffer dude compared to, say, Ben Shapiro or some of these others. Mm-hmm. And he carries a gun. And so there's a little bit of that mythology. He's got the voice of Fred on Scooby-Doo, and you can't unhear that once I tell you.
No.
Yeah, so if you hear Steven Crowder, he sounds exactly like Fred on Scooby-Doo, angry about something his wife did.
Does he wear an ascot?
No, he does not, and that's how you know the difference. It's the only way you would know the difference.
Thank you.
Yes, and height. Anyways, point being is that he's one of the guys that you think, to some degree, would fit the mold that he's actually more fitting of what MAGA thinks of themselves. He works out, he carries a gun, and he treats his wife like crap. It's like he's from Central Casting, as Trump always likes to say in that regard. And that's, by the way, that whole thing has been tearing, Candace Owens has been attacking him. He's been at war with the Daily Wire since they offered him a bunch of money to come over, and he read the contract offer that they gave him on the air. And there's just been back and forth. And I have to say, I don't get caught up in this, like in the YouTube. You've probably seen this, Johnny Million. You'll come across in YouTube world this interpersonal angry stuff that's like, it's videos back and forth between YouTubers or between Twitch people that's like the Real Housewives yelling across a table, but done in 7-minute video essays about each other. Oh. And it is such a glorious waste of time. I have no interest whatsoever. And when they turn to that, you can tell that their argument and the rest of what they do not going so well.
Oh.
And that's exactly what's happening. So the Daily Wire and Candace Owens are attacking him. And at the same time, we've got the Trump-DeSantis battle going on. Asa Hutchinson and I believe Tim Scott is, he just did an exploratory committee. So there are people jumping on board to be in the primary on the Republican side, mainly because they're jockeying to be Pence's replacement. Because there's obviously no comeback there. So people are going to try and jockey because Trump will pick on popularity. He will not pick on worth. He will not. Right. He'll just whoever ranks the highest below his number one competitor. So if he's got a number one competitor, they're off the list. They are to be violently attacked. That's what's happening to DeSantis, and that's what will continue to happen to DeSantis just in case he starts to bump up again. But he's awful, and he's never going to make it, and all he'll do is chip away a big chunk of it.
DeSantis recover? It's like his policies, he is past the worst things that he'll be like legitimately able to pass. And
he has to do it in the middle of the night because he's not even that popular.
In person.
Right. You know what? I got to say, not my problem, not our problem. I'm not here to work out how the Republicans will pick the next second best awful person to try and give Trump a run for his money during this next round. I'm just going to eat popcorn and watch because I am stunned. And again, look at DeSantis, a great example of a dude who certainly doesn't scream, manly man Lou Ferrigno. And again, these aren't my limitations I'm putting on what it is to be a man or any of those things. As Johnny and I, as Kiss fans, know, all right, we have a wide variety of male expression that constitutes manliness as far as I'm concerned, including all of Paul Stanley's outfits over the years. So calm down to everybody else who tells us that we're just discovering the flexibility of gender for Gen Xers. We're way ahead of you. But in terms of the right, they have very distinct roles, very distinct limits on what that behavior scope is, and they never live up to it. It's bizarre. It is so consistent. And again, because Tucker, one of the things you could say about him over everything else is that he is an absolute dweeb. There, no question, just a whingy, pedantic, weaselly dweeb. Like, even with all of his, like, testicle tanning and weightlifting and red meat and testosterone storylines, none of it seems to be paying off. It's a terrible. It's like Alex Jones's penis pills. Apparently they don't work, and except they make you bloated and make you look like a rotting mango that's about to explode. We got to come back after this. We'll take a break. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Chat is saying that I am echoing.
Yeah, there's a slapback that came up at some point. Let me see real quick. Say again. Check. Check again. Check for me. Check for me, John.
I reset a thingy. Did that help out?
Nope. Sorry. Check again.
Check 1, 2. Oh, I'm hearing it.
You're hearing it?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't hear it anymore. So
I don't mind it if nobody else hears it.
Yeah. Okay. It's one of those weird. Yeah.
Boo.
Yeah. It's audio. Yeah. Audio sound across there is a bit of a problem. Double the Johnny. Don't worry about it. Yes. It's fine. It's good. There we go. Yeah. It was super tight. It's a super tight slapback. So a little more like Elvis's vocals than.
Right now it's about half a second.
Okay. Yeah. We're not hearing that at all. At least not on my end.
Chicago is.
Chicago is?
That's what they said.
Very strange.
And some people say it sounds okay.
Huh. So peculiar. All right, hold on 1 second. I'll see if I can.
Okay.
This is where I start messing around, and then we get into some trouble. And then there it goes. Mm-hmm.
Oh, boy.
Where is that? Come here, you. Okay, it's just not opening. Okay, all right. Well, then I can't do anything about it anyway. So we're just we'll just be this way. Okay. It's all clear on Facebook. Everybody says though. Yeah, it's very strange. I think it's just an artifact that comes and goes. Yeah, it sounds fine. Don't mess around. I know. I'm like, I don't want to touch anything. If I'm not hearing the problem, again. All right. We'll remind everybody that Phil's going to join us in the next hour when we come back. And yeah.
Yeah, I think we're back.
Are we? That's interesting because it's curious because I did not hear Chicago bring us back. So
I don't
there we go.
think you hear Chicago right now.
No, I didn't. There we go. I got it. We're good. I hear you.
Oh,
yeah, we're all good. Yeah, welcome back. It's sometimes we just work it out. It's just what we do. That said, if I may, I think I may have solved one of the other issues on it. This is an interesting part of, I guess, MAGA world over the next, I suppose, maybe 3-6 months. I don't know how long this is going to last before everybody just, decides that. I don't know, is that Trump, all right, we just have to shrug it off and go with it. We really don't have a choice. So let's just do it. And that seems to be where some of the donors are currently. But quite frankly, he's going to lose. And they know this. They know it. They're aware that they're going to lose. And quite frankly, some of them seemed like resigned to it, like it's chemo or something. Like they just have to go through it to kill the infection in that regard in their party, right?
Horrible.
So yeah, but I mean that's how they're looking at it. They're like, well, all right, we're just done. That's all you can do with it, and there's no way around it, and yada yada. And I find it. Sorry, I'm gonna do this real quick. Blink.
Oh boy.
Yeah, you're okay.
I'm back.
Yeah. And now I can hear Chicago without any problems. Oh, there they are. Hold on 1 second. Now you can see you. Okay, sorry. You were behind a desktop for a second. It was I'd sent you back to the 90s. So this is the conundrum that they're in on the Republican side right now, is that they're so all in on Trump because you have to be.
Yeah.
You can't be, you can't be halfway with somebody like Trump, because if you even have a moment to think about it, you'll realize it's ridiculous. That's by the way the same way they feel about Tucker to some degree. Is if you stop and think for a second and go, wait a minute, this guy's just a rich kid who got a television show because his dad knows the guy who owns the network and is willing to just be kind of a whingy and argue on behalf of
he will
our
say
tax bracket.
anything for a price.
Yeah, and has for years. And the minute you start thinking about that, it all falls apart. So it requires, both of them require a cultish, sort of almost mystical belief system. And it's interesting because like before the show, I was watching this thing about the record, Forbes's record of picking criminals. So Forbes, does their 30 under 30 to watch and their top 100 list and the like. And there was this running gag for a while, especially in the tech and crypto sector, that if you show up on a Forbes list and they say you're great, that you should immediately shop for an attorney and a country with no extradition treaty with the United States, because that's officially the target is on your back. Because because they pick from Theranos to Martin Skrillex to the guy who just MBS, not MBS, whoever it is, the nerdy crypto dude who went to jail. He goes by 3 initials, who stole $1 billion from people. Like those are his entire upper board, who was engaged in the shuffle money scheme that was going on there and defrauding investors hand over fist. They were all in the 30 under 30 thing, and everyone was just marveling at them. Well, the Forbes cut their teeth on BSing the world about people's business acumen and their wealth on Donald Trump. It should be the story that Trump was able to pretend to be his own PR agent and call Forbes and manage to BS his way onto the list of the top 100 billionaires or whatever, that Forbes 400 or whatever, for years, should tell you everything you need to know about taking that kind of media seriously. It makes no sense to trust the judgment of a magazine or an editorial staff that's been that wrong that much. Same thing applies to Tucker Carlson. So, he's made the same predictions that convicted pedophile and recurring guest on Judge Napolitano's podcast, Scott Ritter, former weapons inspector who lived in Russia for 6 years, and apparently they got so much compromise on this dude because of his proclivity towards trying to sleep with children that he now defends them no matter how stupid it makes him look, because the minute he stops, I guess it all comes out. That's got to be the only reason. Or they're promising him something awful if they win and he's helping them do it. That's the other possibility. But he's saying and has said the exact same thing that Tucker and Marjorie Taylor Greene are saying. And over again, they've been wrong. Again and again and again. Just wrong constantly. And yet, these are the people that get a cult-like following on the right. And again, I think it's because there's almost like a tipping point where at some point you peak the meter on being so wrong that they're now just defending your philosophy so much that they can't allow any criticism. And that's where Trump finds himself. Like, his record is so terrible and absurd.
You can't concede any point.
Right. Because the minute you do, it all falls down. And that's where he finds himself, is DeSantis really going to, interrupt the flow of Trump becoming the main candidate? Maybe not. Jail might. But so DeSantis is kind of like stupidly and awkwardly biding his time, as other people are doing, because they're, you can tell when the Asa Hutchinsons of the world, when they start coming in, it's largely because they've seen the evidence. they're in a situation where because they're in the Senate, he and Tim Scott have had a chance to peruse the evidence against Donald Trump. And it seems like they're kind of convinced that it ain't going to be DeSantis because he's a nudge, and it ain't going to be Trump because he's going to be in worse shape than he is during his rape trial this week going forward. And so they're just waiting until he drops out or falls apart, and then they can run in and be sort of a sense of reason. And, I'm not just crazy, but I am a dyed-in-the-wool Republican. I'm truly conservative, and I might not say all the things that Trump would say, but wink, nod, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I'm going to do it once I get in there. Because every success that Trump had during his presidency that he brags about that was genuine in terms of a Republican agenda came from Mitch McConnell. From packing the court with their own people to the tax cut, all that stuff was just ready for the next Republican to rubber stamp it. It had nothing to do with it. He didn't go through a pile of possible candidates. He didn't, attack the tax code from a former businessman's perspective, and he wanted entertainment deductions to be added back in for wining and dining people and taking them to strip clubs and golf courses, because that's what he remembers from the 80s. Chump change on the scale that most people are talking about, and certainly in terms of the size of the tax cut that they were giving to corporations that Mitch McConnell teed up for him. Just like petty, small, his own personal gripe. Had nothing to do with the actual tax code in any meaningful way, and certainly nothing to do with that tax code. That was 100% Mitch McConnell and the other Republicans drafting this thing for him. And him turning on them is just, again, I've said it before and I'll say it again, there will not be enough popcorn for 2023. And these guys are going to eat each other alive, just like the right-wing media sphere is. And Trump himself runs on this myth. And it is falling apart so quickly that he's actually doing the Iowa level grand, regular politicking, eating pieces of pizza and doing the hangout thing with smaller and smaller groups. Like he's, Howard Dean, literally having to make the hump in New Hampshire and Iowa and all these. He is acting like a seventh tier candidate. And there's only one reason. Well, there's two reasons. There's two reasons why he's doing that. One is he does not have a lock on this, and that the majority, even though he has the highest rating amongst the Republicans that have announced or that are running, which doesn't include DeSantis, and DeSantis isn't, in shooting distance, even though he hasn't officially announced. Trump used to be the president, and he's not even half of the Republican Party has signed on to him. They should automatically go, yeah, he's the guy. Of the people running, he's my dude. But they're not.
Right.
Some of them are saying people who haven't even said they're going to run yet, and some of them are not saying anybody at all, even of the people that have announced and that haven't announced that are toying with it. They're not even picking that person. That's over half of the Republican Party. That's not the general electorate. Trump is having to do, regular, on the ground, baby kissing type of politicking. And the only reason for that is because he knows they're looking at the numbers. His people are looking at the numbers. They know also that he likes the ego boost of being surrounded by sycophants. So they take him to places where he's already got it locked or he already had it locked. So he go, this has always been great to us. We won very handily. That's the only places they're going to send him because he needs the ego boost. And the other reason is he needs the money. This is yet another scheme for him to bleed his supporters dry. This is more of a televangelist tent revival tour than it is a presidential campaign. And the reality is these people are going to be tapped out by the time the real campaign comes around. Because these are people who are being helped by Joe Biden's policies more than, any of the last 5 presidencies, probably, especially around union jobs and infrastructure work. And yet they have thrown their fealty behind Donald Trump because they're afraid of the trans, or they're afraid that, there's going to be a crime wave of militant black people shooting up their neighborhoods, or whatever panic attack they're being fed. So much so that they got to back Trump even when he's wrong right to their face. But they only got so much. That well is not very deep. And it's a bit cruel to watch him do this to his supporters. Again, they're grown people. They'll make their own stupid decisions. But his retail politics right now are so low-rung compared to what he got in 2015 and 2016. This should scare the living daylights out of him every single day. And the lack of people that showed up when he was at court. This is a dwindling, and the slow grind watching this go down is spectacular. His rally, or if you want to call it that, in New Hampshire, where he's like, there are thousands, thanks to the fire marshals, because there's thousands of people outside waiting to get in. No.
Can you imagine,
there weren't.
like, never being able to have a quiet mind because you've just developed this nest of awfulness around you?
Oh, yeah. And yeah, I mean, this is where Putin finds himself. It's largely where Xi Jinping finds himself. And I'm sure Kim Jong-un to some degree, except Kim Jong-un can just murder people outright. He doesn't even have to pretend to push them out a window, which I think is part of Putin's stress. But it's the same way. There is a special kind of panic, I think, that comes from a ferociously low self-esteem, a collapsing self-esteem, a belief that you have no worth, that you're an idiot, and you've managed to flim-flam a bunch of people into believing you have skills, into believing you're smart, but you're not. You're in way over your head. And there are only two kinds of people around you at that level. There are people who follow you around, who are your sycophantic believers, who you must have total disdain for, because if they think I'm smart, they must be morons, because you can't not think that about them. That's everybody who has, lame followers like that they don't respect. The reasoning is because they have low self-esteem. They can't believe. It's the same way Trump feels about women, because any woman who'd be stupid enough to sleep with him must be, of low quality. So every woman he's even attracted to, who slept with him because of his money, or because, of position, or maybe even because they were attracted, he thinks they're insane or greedy or just waiting till he dies. So that's a nice source of constant buzzing anxiety. It's a beehive of anxiety around your relationships. It also goes out to all the sycophants, the Corey Lewandowskis and people like that who are around him, the Jason Millers. But then there's also the people who are blowing smoke because they're smart and they've made a bunch of money. The Wilbur Rosses of the world, to some degree, even Steve Bannon, perhaps even Paul Manafort, that scares the living daylights out of him. Because like Putin's inner circle, if he hasn't eliminated anybody with a brain, as soon as they get their shot, they're coming. It's a scary notion. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. And that's where he lives all the time. It's why he wakes up at 2:30 in the morning to scream in all caps on Troth Sunchal. And he's earned it.
Yeah.
We'll be back. See, this is why I don't buy the narcissism idea. Unless people argue that narcissism itself is actually a mask. But I think genuine narcissism is. I think genuine narcissism is more akin to like narcissistic personality disorders, what you would find in like Ted Bundy. You know what I mean? Who absolutely thought the sun shined out of his ass and thought he deserved to be able to do what he did. And again, not crazy.
I guess maybe if
Trump's narcissism, I don't buy it. I think
if I'm going to stick with saying that Trump is a narcissist, this is what happens when you shine like an insane spotlight on it, and we don't see that a ton. Most narcissists kind of like the shadows. Because they like to control the people they know they can control.
That's right. That is the Machiavellian Rasputin version of narcissism, which is absolutely real, and that's spot on. Because Rasputin's entire narcissism was based on I'm smarter than the whole of these people, and so I can manipulate them. I'm the puppet master behind it, and that's what he believed, and he was right. And he used that, and he would feign being weak in their face, because he knew it would help, because it meant he was smarter than they were. Trump can never feign weakness. That is not a sign of strength or a belief in your own strength at all. And to some degree, the same thing is true of Putin. He's got, you can call it like short man syndrome, that Putin has in that regard, because he's teensy-weensy, shrink gray. But
Coming back
Trump,
in 15 seconds.
Thank you. There's a lot of small man syndrome going around, even in these tall guys with money. I don't get it.
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
So we have been watching, and this is going to be an ongoing debate all during this campaign. I have no doubt. Johnny Million and I were talking about this a little bit during the break about whether Trump is a narcissist or not, and people have been back and forth about this. And Johnny brought up something really smart, which is that it's news. That narcissists, that a true narcissist can, operates in the shadows like Rasputin or Machiavelli, where they, or Ted Bundy, right? They view themselves as puppet masters who, they rub elbows with all the rich people and they kind of manipulate them emotionally, and that they can feign weakness when necessary to make the leader that they are taking power from or borrowing power from think that they're not a threat and that they are, safe to be around, right? And Trump can never do that. He's incapable. It is not possible for Donald Trump to feign weakness in any way.
No, he can't. He can't.
No. Which is
like
because it's not a joke.
His ego won't allow that manipulation technique through, where it would serve him, and he still won't allow it.
Exactly. Because it can't, because you can't let anybody in, because the minute they see, they'll realize I'm actually weak. That's the fear. And so that can't be narcissism. That is low self-esteem. That is pathological low self-esteem. Okay. And he is inflicting it. He's inflicting it on the world. And I think the gold furniture is a great example. Like, right?
But it looks so good, and it's so functional.
Isn't it? And it's comfortable.
And the resale value.
Oh, it's nice. Yeah. You can always loan it to your own library. So I stand by this. I'm going to be back and forth, and people will. The clinical definition of narcissistic personality, whatever. I don't care. From a true narcissist, trust me when I say.
Somebody mentioned this. I'm sorry, Dragon X Flyer in the chat said that your Hsrpm looks like you've got a sales tag on your head. Oh, right. That's sweet. Yeah, it's poking me. It points to the left. I thought that was kind of... I like it. Yeah. Anyway. Anyways, so, and yet it's made out of metal. Narcissists decompensate, according to Kath. I don't... maybe they do, but... in this particular case, I don't think so. Again, I think Trump hates his own reflection. You just know it. You just know it. That'd be the only thing we agree on. That, he knows he can take it. It's why he palled around with Jeffrey Epstein. It's why he liked those kind of parties, because he could take advantage. These women are already teed up. They're there because the money is there. He doesn't even have to emotionally connect with anybody if he even could, because these women showed up to the party because this is a money situation. So you can just sleep with them because they're basically prepaid prostitutes in his mind. That's what it's obvious. That's how he thinks about them. And, in that clip of him dancing and whispering with Jeffrey Epstein, that's what's going on. And the issue again is when you have a veneer that delicate, you can't kick the tires on that lemon. You cannot do it because they will pop, because the car you won't even get in it and roll it off the lot. And the first time he ran, he could count on the idea that, people they bought the BS story from The Apprentice. This time around, people know better. This time around, the Mexico's, everything that he proposes next time around is going to have hashtag Mexico will pay for it on the tail end of it, including his
Doesn't it seem more like he's going to be putting all of the energy into reconvincing the people that voted for him before rather than trying to get new people in?
Yes. And the fact that he has to do that is a terrible sign. That is for for somebody who was touting his movement. There's never been a movement like MAGA ever in the movements of movements and all the movements that MAGA, their giant movement, is the movement of all movements, and it moved everybody and they moved on. Yeah, that's the movement. That's the MAGA movement. To have to throw a hard sell like that this late in the game, after you lost last time, in the middle of, by the way, your rape trial. Mm-hmm. I mean, those two words alone, if there's a sickness in our politic, it's because...
How when you were going through your rape trial...
Doesn't everybody have one?
Your life?
Oh, my God.
Nobody says that. Nobody has this in their life.
No. And if they do... They're not a topic of conversation around anybody else's rights or privileges. You don't talk about something, well, since his rape trial, I think he's really turned things around and become I think it'd be a great comptroller for Illinois. You know what I mean? Like, there's no point where you're like, sure. It's very obviously he's a disgusting pig, but, you can't argue with him, his knowledge of sewage treatment plants and water systems. Like, no, how about we'll find somebody else. Thank you. Thanks. No. Go if you want to start your own business, knock yourself out. But in the public sector where other people rely on you to show up for your job and care about it, I don't need you in food inspection, buddy, much less near the button. And so, and by the way, DeSantis, as much as he's cadavering his campaign, is eating crap and he's just embarrassing himself. They understand, you and I think that Republicans, being petulant dweebs is off-putting and not a sign of leadership, right? But apparently maggots don't, because if you'll recall, all Trump does all the time is scream into the wind about every possible slight against him. So why do they think DeSantis's petulant, whingy ramblings will long-term affect his vote? If he just keeps signing the right legislation...
How bad does the Disney thing look? Like, whatever the details are, it just looks bad.
The irony is that lost him more Republican votes than anybody else because, and again, this goes to the classic conservatism idea. And Philip Ittner is going to be joining us. We're going to talk about Ukraine coming up because the spring offensive seems to be ramping up right now. And there's a lot going on over there. And we'll be taking questions from the chat room as well. So you can prep those as well. But I want to be abundantly clear. As long as he keeps signing bills, that seem to fight the culture war, they seem okay with it. But there's one line that Republicans always seem to worry about crossing, which is the government's control over corporations. And they've been back and forth about it over Twitter and other stuff. But when it comes to this Disney thing, the idea that he would be president and be able to do this to any company that he finds slights him as president, and then gives that power to the next president, which anybody who thinks ahead is aware is a possibility, scares the living daylights out of Republicans. It's ironic. At least they know when Trump says it, he's going to fail. He won't do it. He'll give up because he's a loser. He's always been a loser. We'll be back right after this.
I'm getting an echo from Chicago, and people are saying that I'm still echoing.
I'm hearing
in
that
Chicago.
too.
That's such a strange, because I do not hear it.
It's like
Okay, hold on one second.
600 milliseconds.
Okay, it's like 600 milliseconds. It's like 600 milliseconds. It's like 600 milliseconds. Okay, here we go. Let's go back to here. And I'm gonna put Phil in here. I'm gonna try and do something real quick.
Put Phil in here.
Copy.
YouTube is good.
Okay, and we'll do this and go to, where are we? There we go. Okay, excellent. Now, that's where that's going. Okay, how's the audio right now?
Check. I still hear the echo, but a lot of people in the chat are saying it's good. The CPT feed has bad echo on Johnny only. Thanks, Rich.
That's weird. Yeah, then that's going to be and Phil can't hear me? Phil, can you not hear us? He doesn't hear me. Hold on. Testes. 1, 2, 3. We'll go back to here real quick, and then we'll go back to here. Check. Trying to get Phil in. I know we can see him, but we can't hear him, and he can't hear the audio. Let me fix one thing. Let me make sure. I'll do this. Okay, excellent. And we'll close this, and we'll open this.
Yeah, we don't hear Phil either.
Yeah, I don't hear him. So it's
audio in the chat now.
Yep. We're working on it. Phil, I don't see signal coming from you. So it might be on your end. I don't see the meter on the side of your screen moving.
Do you have an extra sketch?
He's going to hang up and call right back.
Meantime.
We see you, but we can't hear you.
Blink twice if you're in trouble.
Right. He's always in trouble. Hold on one second. I'll go back to this for 1 second.
And Silent Phil.
It is. We'll get it worked out. Hold on. He's going to call back in. And then, let's see. 1 second. More scene options. Johnny, do you have echo cancellation turned on your audio controls on your side?
Where would that be?
It would be under audio settings. Hold on 1 second. Let me see if I can do. I can probably do it.
I have 0 latency.
Okay, I'm turning on. All right, speak to me. Say something. Check for me.
Oh, I heard Phil.
Excellent. You heard Phil? I don't hear Phil. That's fun.
Phil just said, there we go.
Okay, cool. All right. Oh, I know why. Because he's not here yet.
I know why.
There we go. I'll copy this. We'll get him in here. Oh, he went away. Nope. He was there for a second. And then he went, come back. Philip, come back. Any kind of
Lisa and I sang that song this morning.
Aw. Why did you say, Lisa, come back?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, I hear somebody moving.
No,
that's weird. I hear
Phil. I don't think he can.
I do not hear Phil.
He can hear me.
I hear you.
Exciting.
I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. Check.
Test.
Excellent. Okay, give me 1 second. I hear him now, and I don't hear Johnny. That's
cool.
Funny. No, I hear you. There you go. I hear you. Let me go to properties here, and then it goes there. Okay, and then check this.
We're back in 1 minute.
Excellent. I will work it out. Let's see. I'm gonna take this thing, and then scroll down to the stream audio. And there's a bottom drop. And then we go to the channel, and then okay. Everybody say hello, so I can know that everybody's speaking.
Oh my goodness, I don't hear the echo anymore.
And Phil, can you hear me? He's frozen, it looks like.
I can hear you, but very faintly.
Oh, okay. Well, you can turn the audio up in my direction, but that hasn't changed, so it might be on your end. We hear you.
What to do?
Yeah, sound good.
You sound good.
Seconds.
Yep, we're good. We'll manage, as we always do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Figure it out, but I can hear you, but only on the speakers on my phone, and it's very faint.
Understood. Yeah. Very curious. How can I send more-ness to him? I don't know. Let's see.
You're listening to the House Sparks
We'll manage.
program, Mega Worldwide.
I've had people walk out of here before, but not when I was being so charming.
Video streaming at housesparks.com.
I don't care for you or for the putrid sludge you're troweling out.
Us face little lipstick.
True progressive talk.
Might be a good time for you guys to give up.
Welcome back. It's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide, now with 100% more Johnny Million. And, we had Philip Bittner for a second.
Phil, where'd you go?
He went away for a second. He'll be back. We'll have to bring him back in.
He did that thing. Have you ever been talking to a cat or a dog on FaceTime and they get really close to the screen and accidentally hang it up? That's what.
Yes, they touch it with their nose because they recognize
I think
the
we've all
red.
done that. If you haven't, you need to talk to more animals on FaceTime.
Talk to the animals. Shock with the animals. Yes, agree. That's it. He'll pop back in with us in just 1 second. I'll bring him back in, and I'll bring everybody up to speed on some of the things we're going to talk about. And by the way, chat room, get your questions ready for Phil because I know he'll make it in here. He's probably just using his.
I've actually got a question from the chat room for you, Hal.
Oh,
that I may as well throw out here.
Sure.
From Apocryphy, they say, I'm beginning to see maybe a threat to TFG. Is a true believer somehow waking up and realizing they were duped and executing him for treason? Lone Wolf? Thoughts?
Oh, I
don't know
see.
What TFG is.
The former guy. Trump. I seriously doubt anybody gets close. Who might and Philip, we hear you, and you're good. So hopefully we'll let him. There you go. We hear you. Yeah. Okay. Good. Yes. A little bit of a slapback, but we'll be all right. So no, I don't think that's a possibility. I think he will be protected the rest of his days. The Secret Service know what they're doing, and his biggest problem, I suppose, will be. I mean, unless he shares a cell with Paul Manafort, who's like that. The pardon didn't hold. That kind of thing. Pretty hilarious. Philip's getting his sound together. Can you hear us okay, buddy? You there? We'll bring him in a moment. We do. It's a little tinny, a little echoey, but you are in Ukraine right now, so we keep forgetting that in this world of shouldn't this all work? No, it really shouldn't, actually. And it's kind of amazing that it works at all. It's kind of ridiculous that this is even.
I could take a quick risk and see if I can improve that audio.
Well, I think we're okay for the split second, and if he's bringing in he got a new microphone, Johnny Million. He got one. Yeah.
If this works really well, then we would give up the ghost, and everybody would know that he's just in a studio in downtown Van Nuys.
Right. Yeah. We should just admit it at this point. Yeah. Hold on 1 second. I gotta move this over
Phil
here.
Every week is like the moon landing.
That's right. Yes, it's amazing. Well, no, I think they had more
Look
consistent
at the
quality.
on him. You can tell it's not real. The flag's not really waving on Phil.
Right. We lost him. He unplugged and plugged in again.
Look, you can see. Look, he left footprints behind, though. See,
he did in the snow. So, one of the things I'm going to get to when we finally can talk to him is about Crimea, because there's apparently the plan for the liberation of Crimea has Arestovich actually was told, like, this is how it's going to happen, therefore it is. Like, they're not saying what the plan is, but the argument is that that plan is, people are convinced it's going to work. And so that's personally exciting in that regard. Now, there were a lot of things that happened this week, not the least of which was, of course, Zelensky talking to Xi Jinping. Xi Jinping finally had a phone call with Zelensky to push their 12-step program for Russia being able to reload for a little while. Mainly, a lot of people put weight on this, that they were like, well, we just negotiated the Iran-Saudi Arabia ceasefire, which, no, they didn't. Iraq did with the UN, and China had the signing ceremony. So calm down. Secondly, it's not going very well. There has been no moves to remove arms from the Houthis in northern Yemen, so it's exactly where it was. There is a bit of a ceasefire that's been going on for a while, but it predates that part of it. But the idea was that they were gonna, that he had this productive, positive phone call with China because China needs food. And Ukraine has a lot of it. And China's not convinced that if Russia takes over Ukraine, they're going to get as much of it as they need. And I think Phil's trying to bring his camera back in. We'll get that in a second.
Okay.
I'll hold on for a second. I see him there in the feed showing up, but I don't see a camera yet. So we'll get there in a minute. There's a little bit of artifacting. That's fun.
There's a lot of that on my show. Did you say fartifacting?
No, I did not. I did not say fartifacting. I said artifacting. Fartifacting. So the overall situation in Ukraine and Russia is teeing up for the spring offensive. They're basically, Prigozhin said this week that he thought it's going to happen next week. Phil and I spoke about it on Thursday. Though, and was that you testing or was that Chicago testing? Because that was a weird, garbly. Okay, good. All right. It was garbly and weird sounding on my end. So either way, it doesn't work. But the point is that what you've seen all week, this week, is a clamoring by tankies that we must have negotiations right now. Right now. We need them. There needs to be a ceasefire and there needs to be talks right now. Well, both sides have made clear what their main issues are. The issues for Russia seem to be, we get to keep what we took, and if we want to take more later, we will, because you're not allowed to join NATO. That's their terms, which is insanity, because why wouldn't you join NATO now, knowing that the country next door has designs on attacking you at their next possible chance, and all you're going to do is give them time to reload. The other thing is that the Ukrainians just want to go back to the 1991 borders. Pretty simple. Just get out. Go back to where you were. We had a perfectly fine country here. You could have trade deals and all that other stuff, but you don't get to bomb and attack parts of our country because we share a common language overlap. And that's an ongoing problem in terms of those negotiations. That's the stalemate. That is effectively where they are. And anybody who is saying there needs to be a ceasefire and a negotiation without addressing the primary terms that both parties, the absolute baseline of what both parties will accept, and the fact that those terms at their absolute baseline are an absolute conflict.
What do you consider the absolute baseline to be? Like Barney Miller?
Yeah. Or no, Lover Call by Danko Jones. No, pat. Yeah. See, that's a absolute baseline. Or Lateralis by Tool. I think
that's a really good one.
Yeah.
That's the absolute baseline right there. But Barney Miller, come on.
Yeah. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah. Yeah, it's great. So it's like it was written by Dean Martin. The point I'm trying to make, if I have a point at all, is that the people who are clamoring for a ceasefire know that there are irreconcilable differences in this situation. They also know that international law and national law for many of the countries that they are in is on the side of Ukraine. So the only reason to call for this as it stands right now is the idea that what they want is give Russia what they've already taken and pretend it never happened. It is and that's and like I've had a lot of respect for like Code Pink in the past, but Medea Benjamin's statements on Democracy Now! This week were just horrifying and totally dismissive of what has happened in Ukraine. Not what's going to happen, not the potential of it, but the actual deaths that have gone on there for years, not to mention recently, not to mention the last year. It is shrugging off Russia's attack entirely. Like, I know they attacked, but just let them have it so we can all go back to sleep. Is a really weird thing to say about knowing full well that Russia has no intention of stopping this. That they've done this, they've done a pilot program of this in a bunch of different areas. And I think I don't know if Phil's locked out or something. I don't see him. And there he is. Hold on one second. He's got another account open. I see him. Okay, we're good. I'll bring him in. And we're going to take a break. When we come back, I'll have Phil Bittner on his side. Excellent. He's in both places. We'll make it happen. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. Okay. And boonk. Pop in.
We're on break.
Yep, there he is.
The music.
That's okay. No problem. There he is. You're in, Phil. You see us? You good?
I heard that. Yeah. You're in, Phil.
Yep. And let's see. I might be getting two sources of audio from the other one, so I'm going to mute that angle. And check. Can you check for me, Phil? Check. Hold on.
Check your booty.
Check again. He was there for a second. Phil, can you check for me? Was that you, Johnny? Please tell me it was.
Yeah, of course it was.
Yeah. And if it was Chicago, I would have gone, they built a new thing for us. Phil, you can't hear us? Phil can't hear us?
Mm-hmm.
The struggle is real.
So real.
Yes, it is. Okay, so he's there. And I know we're sending audio to him, and we're just not getting audio back. Oh, he's swapping around. Okay, there we go. We'll try it again. Okay, you got it. He's slapping the mic on there. We'll make it happen. Sometimes we always start from scratch. It's good. All right. We'll be up in just 1 second. And chat room, thank you for your patience and your support. We greatly appreciate it.
Attention, stop what you're doing. Because we're coming back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Oh my God!
They went a little crazy with it, and I appreciate it.
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
We're still working on getting Phil hooked up. It is the struggle is real and it is ongoing, but it is a definite possibility. Oh, I think we might have him. I keep saying that, but I hope springs eternal. We'll see if he loads up because the internet there is a bit.
BADAR. That's two. Yeah, but not right next to each other.
Hey, there he is. Listen to that. Look at that. That's that I heard.
Had to bring in Fletch.
All right, I'm cautiously optimistic.
I am too. It's a little garbly, but we'll be all right. We'll be okay. Yeah, cautiously optimistic is a great word for it. This is the same issue we had with your mic last time, Phil. It was a little digitally, but we're okay. Let's move ahead because there's news, and that's the important thing. Yes, you'll be. It's Max Phil Room. There's a couple of stories that I want to address right out of the gate. I guess on a personal level, the one that really I found creepy was this. Oh, we lost him again. Nope, please don't. All right. Oh, it's rough. Okay, he's in Ukraine, so we cut some slack in that. There was a 14-year-old girl that was abducted in Ukraine by Russians, and she is going to be tried in Russia.
Oh, neat. Yeah, I'm sure she's a threat.
Yeah, a criminal case has been opened against a 14-year-old girl who had previously been deported from Ukraine. According to the ombudsman, a criminal case against the child was initiated after the Ukrainian authorities found out about the girl and demanded her return. So they found out this 14-year-old girl had been abducted. They asked for her back because she's a child, and the Russians decided to try her as a criminal so they could keep her.
Neat.
We showed at the meeting of the UN Security Council a photo of this girl. She's 14 years old. The Russians deliberately took her away. They deliberately keep her actually in captivity. What exactly the teenager is accused of, Luminez did not specify. According to him, the Russians refused to give the girl until the end of, quote, the court case. Basically, they're just grabbing people up for prisoner swaps. They're running out of soldiers. They're running out of operatives. They're running out of arms dealers and murderers and the like. And so they just need poker chips. They've grabbed this 14-year-old girl and made her a poker chip. And it is, it's the brutality of this is heartbreaking. Also, there's a story about 10 tanks filled with oil were destroyed in Sevastopol, which is where the Moskva used to dock and all that. And so refueling the Russian Navy out of Sevastopol has become increasingly difficult. 40,000 ton tanks. Like I have to
That's
say,
not easy to say either.
No, 40,000 tons. What do you get? Another day older, and so I don't have a problem dealing with millions and even trillions in terms of dollars. I don't even have a hard time wrapping my head around billions in terms of population. You know what I mean? Like you can picture those. It's not a rough one, but whenever somebody gets into the thousands of tons, I always just picture whatever it is falling through the Earth's crust.
First, I start with an elephant and then go, well, it's more than that.
Yes, it's by a couple. 10 oil tanks with a total capacity of 40,000 tons were destroyed. The fuel was intended for the Russian fleet, according to the GUR, the Ukraine's Ministry of Defense. It happened at Kozacha Bay. And I have to say, if I can show this on the live stream, the picture of this, let me show you this real quick.
Looks like oh.
Yeah. It's straight up like mushroom cloud of a different type. It's the kind of mushroom cloud you would expect on The Last of Us. It's this two-tiered mushroom cloud over the area. Oof. And then that's a lot of boats putting around firing missiles at civilian targets. That's not going to happen. That said, also, this is the story I want to bring up to Phil once we get him back on. He's trying desperately to get back in there. I'm checking in on him as we go. When the armed forces, this is a story from, I think it originated in a Ukrainian paper. When the armed forces of Ukraine approach the borders of temporarily occupied Crimea, strikes on Russian military facilities on the peninsula will begin. According to the former advisor to the office of the president of Ukraine, Oleksiy Arostovich, the first to be destroyed are the Crimean Bridge, the base of the Russian armed forces, and the Black Sea Fleet. He shared the details on his YouTube channel. That's where I was initially. I will tell you as a military man what will happen. The whole holiday will begin when we reach the borders of Crimea. It will start from the Crimean Bridge to make it more fun, and then the processing of strategic warehouses, airfields, military bases, and factories will begin, which are related to maintaining combat readiness Russian grouping, and then they will start working on the fleet. In his opinion, there will be 10 strikes a week. Following an example of what was observed at the airfield in Evpatoria last year, which is when they took back, I believe, the airfield outside of Kiev, and then used the same technique in Kharkiv and Kherson. In his, 10 strikes a week, he advised Russians who illegally moved to the peninsula during the occupation should think about returning home. And at the same time, those who do not want to part with the resorts should, quote, get morally ready now. Not quite sure what that means, Johnny Million. I'm gonna go with they perhaps should get right with God because they're going to meet their maker soon. Maybe that would be how I would directly take it. Or make sure you're not fighting on the side of the bad guys. It's time to switch teams back to your original allegiance or something. In a very short time, you will need it. I would already be packing my bags while the Crimean Bridge is intact, said a former employee of the OP. Arestovich believes that after the deoccupation of Crimea, the relatives of Russian soldiers who are there will leave. Yeah, I'm fairly certain that's true. I'm convinced that could happen. Let's see. All right. Military expert, Colonel of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Peter Chernik, said earlier that it is much easier to liberate Crimea now than to pass the line of demarcation of the model on February 24th last year. This requires long-range missiles and good aircraft. At the same time, military expert Roman Svitan believes. Oh wait, I hear the voice of our dear friend Philip Bittner trying round 3. I think it's going to work. I'm excited. I'm gonna go for it just because I can. In this one, we'll bring him in.
I'm sorry, Hal. That was me. I thought it would be funny.
Yeah, no, I understand. And there's Philip Bittner joining us. There he is. I can see him.
Phil.
I can see him, and I can hear him, and he can hear us, and we can hear him possibly. And again, he's in Ukraine. We're cutting him some slack. He's trying to get this stuff working with the internet. There. Okay, almost, maybe, no.
Oh, so
almost.
close.
So back up, and there we go. All right. Well, thank you. Yes, we need one of those. We're experiencing technical difficulties. We'll be back right after this. Did you add that music? Because I love it, and I think it has to be a recurring. Oh, there he is.
Oh yeah, I'll keep it. I'll send it to you too.
We see you, Phil, and we hear you.
Do you hear you? Do you hear me?
We do.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, boy, finally.
And hold on a second.
Frustrating.
It is. It's going to be rough. It's okay. You're in a foreign country far away with a lot going on. You can hear us now and we can hear you, though. And it's fantastic. Don't touch anything.
Yep.
No one and
Not
you sound great.
Anything. Nobody touched anything.
Don't do it. That includes you, Johnny Million. Don't touch any. No, don't do it.
River.
Don't push. Quit it. All right. We got to cut the tension with something. So right before you came on, Phil, I was just bringing up the fact that one of the former members of the, I guess, the Office of the Presidency, this guy Arestovich, said that he basically told what the strategy will be for the reclamation of Crimea. And that it will start with the bridge, and then it will finish with the and then go to the depots and any kind of storage warehouses, any place that they might be holding arms or troops might be positioned, and then they'll go to the boats. And he's saying that because they have the long range ability that they did not have, earlier, this will be arguably easier to do than some of the territory they took back earlier this year. Thoughts? We got about 2 minutes and we'll go to a break and we'll come back in with questions.
Yeah, no, I mean, all you have to do is look at the oil depot, the fuel depot that's burning right now. The closer the Ukrainians get to Crimea, the more that their long distance weapons, in particular the HIMARS, will be able to wreak havoc on the peninsula. So that's but the other important thing will be to cut off the land bridge, and that will be that will not be artillery, that will be armor, and that's a really big question. And then there'll be that's why we gave them the tanks and the fighting vehicles, and it has to come good. So in the peninsula in particular, they have to strengthen the sea on the land bridge, and that's, I think, going to be harder than being able to lob stuff into Crimea, because they're getting very, very close to the weapon range of the weapon systems that.
Agreed. There is obviously Medvedev has been making noise about that explosion you were just talking about, and saying that the Ukrainians are salivating at the idea of destroying the existence of Russia, blah blah. Basically, inverting their talk about Ukraine on themselves. This has been a running theme across the throughout the war. And then, of course, the Russians are now calling for, quote, the neutralization of Odessa because of the fire in Sevastopol. This is going to be their revenge, is that because you blew up oil tanks, insofar as we know, didn't kill anybody, we're going to retaliate by bombing a civilian, just a city full of people that we have no means of taking over, by the way, just to kill everybody there, just to kill them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the other big news of the last 72 hours or so is this massive attack, or this awful attack at this town, Uman in Cherkasy, where we're now over two dozen dead, many of them children, and no military objective whatsoever. So I wouldn't put it past them to attacking civilian facilities in Odessa.
Right.
You know.
And you said you said 2 dozen dead, yes?
Last time I checked, it was 23 dead, including 3 children.
Right. Yeah, that's from the apartment building that they struck. And again, Russia has moved to it. Yep. We have to take a break. They hit 2 of them right next to each other. We'll be back right after this with some of our questions from the chat now that we got Philip up. He's live in Kiev, and we will be discussing the unfolding, what looks like the beginning of possibly the spring offensive that's happening. I think it's already in play. We'll be back. Yeah.
What do you think of this, Hal? I really like this. Huh?
Sounds great. That's Star Wars, isn't it?
No? It's shortwave radio static, but that's probably what they use in Star Wars.
Yeah. Wait for my signal. Just start your run. That part, remember? Yeah. Right. That's what it reminds me of. And by the way, apparently
I'm getting a lot of feedback, by the way.
Okay, hold on one second. And make sure your echo. Why would he be getting feedback? I don't know.
Test 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, definitely about a 3-second delay.
Okay, hold on one second. I'm gonna do. Let's see. And turn off your echo cancellation and then turn it back on. Is that better? Okay, I'm also going to turn off your... Okay, and neither are you. I turned off your auto... Okay, there you go. I turned off your auto gain.
That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Yeah. Still coming back?
It is, but it's not so loud anymore, so it's not so distracting.
Okay, cool. I turned on echo cancellation on your channel on the software, so hopefully it'll help immensely. You sound great.
It's fine. Okay. About it.
I couldn't hear that at all, John. There you go. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I guess, and it's entirely possible that simply the video thing is just being a bastard today. That's, sometimes we will throw switches every which way.
Message from VDO, so I think it might actually be the app.
Yeah, it might be under attack. That happens too.
Coming back in 20 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Chicago. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Attention, stop what you're doing. Because we're coming back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Oh my God!
They went a little crazy with it, and I appreciate it.
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
So, I don't know, if you'll agree with me about this or not, Phil, but Russia's really weird as a country. They're just friggin' weird. They just had a parade of kindergartners in military uniforms because I guess every adult soldier is being murdered in another country under orders from a balding psychopath in a basement. So apparently, I mean, if that's your idea of a good time. And it, again, we've talked about Trump's, the alleged narcissistic personality disorder that he has, and I don't buy it. I think he's got small man syndrome, and I think that's what Putin's got as well in this case. And we're looking at their reaction to stuff and the ego about it. Again, attacking this apartment building, and then in the response to the oil depots, which Ukraine hit with a drone, it appears. That wasn't even a long-range missile. That was simply a drone attack, which, you know, on the scale of damage that it did, the fact that their drones can do that, that's... I mean, HIMARS can do far more damage and can reach that area. They just didn't bother to use a HIMAR on that. This does not bode well for Russia. And this idea that they're going to call up 400,000 more, I mean, it just seems like an absurdity.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot there. The parade of kids, I suspect, is probably in the run-up to May 9th.
Sure.
May 9th, which is Victory Day in Russia. And, you know, I've discussed this in the past, that the Second World War has transcended just history and has become kind of like religion. And they have, it's so embedded in their mentality. Part of the reason why they keep calling Ukrainians Nazis, because they want to harken back to the great struggle against Nazism. You know, so that's weird. And then, you're right. This kind of like this, what's happening in Crimea with the drone attack, and they know that the offensive is coming, and they're really worried about it. You can see it. The Russians are very, very concerned about it. And if a drone can do that to a fuel depot, what happens when the HIMARS are properly deployed and able to like strike at the boats themselves and the bridge and military facilities?
They seem more and more aware of that.
They know they're about to catch it.
Yeah. They seem to be talking like that's just it's a fait accompli to some degree. There's a lot of resignation in what I've seen written about the coming offensive, and it also, like I said, tracks with the tankies all calling for a ceasefire so that Russia has time to reload. Like they're calling it like it's a stickball game, and somebody's going car, timeout, car, like that. When you know you're losing and you kick the ball into the neighbor's yard so you could go timeout, foul. Right. There is right now the confirmed number of dead for the Russians is 189,460. That's the current number. In a year. In 10 years of Afghanistan, they lost 14,680, something like that. A tenth of it in 10 years. In a year, they have lost 10 times as many people as they lost in 10 years in Afghanistan. And this is all military. This is, there are lots of Ukrainian dead, but certainly they're losing members of their military too, and it's a war. But they're killing a lot of civilians in Ukraine as well. So the death toll in Ukraine includes soldiers and civilians, and it's still lower than the Russians' just soldiers, which is like in this day and age, with the idea that they were the number 2 military in the world. Mark Milley said he gave the Ukrainian army 72 hours at the beginning of this. He was like, they probably won't be able to last 72 hours. That was his worry. The fact that you compare those numbers next to each other, and it's only soldiers on the Russian side. It's only their best, arguably, because they've been sending their special forces in as regular infantry. The number is insane. And it, again, explains why they're just aware maybe that it's over, and they're just kind of trying to figure out a way to pretend victory or to stop it before they get their, fully handed.
I mean, if they can get the Chinese on board, I don't think that Chinese peace plan is really going to work, and I think it's disingenuous. But to be fair, the Ukrainians are keeping their dead numbers very close to their chest. Occasionally, we get indications of how many Ukrainian soldiers have died in this conflict. But we don't know the facts because the Ministry of Defense is not releasing that information.
Sure.
But what I can say is anecdotally, almost everybody I know and everybody who I'm connected to social media has at least once posted or discussed having lost somebody they knew, somebody they graduated high school with, a family member, a friend, somebody they admired who was an artist or what have you. The Ukrainians are losing a lot of their people, a lot of their soldiers, and we're only going to know afterwards. But it's been devastating for Ukraine. The difference is that Ukrainians are willing to, they're not happy about it, clearly, but they're willing to accept the sacrifice because they really are fighting for something. I mean, who knows how many generations on down, the centuries from now will be born in a free Ukraine and will identify as Ukrainian and will have a sovereign, free home nation because of what's happening now. So losing these soldiers now, as awful as it is, and it is deeply upset. I mean, I go past graveyards and I see people always digging. There's always a new grave. It's heartbreaking, but at least they know why they're doing it and they still believe in it. The sacrifice they believe is worth it. What are the Russians fighting for?
Yeah.
What are Russian soldiers dying for? It's far less clear for them. I mean,
in this situation, it would be arguably reasonable to expect that the size of the Russian military versus the size of the Ukrainian military, the size of the budgets of both sides, the sizes of each country, that the number of Ukrainian dead should be 3 to 10 times what the number of the military dead on the Russian side is. The fact that there's parity or even less on the Ukrainian side is and it's why they've sort of shocked the world in terms of their resilience and their ability to fight back, but it's also to Russia's embarrassment that they are just throwing people into the meat grinder on purpose. There was a fight that broke out. I think we mentioned it a couple weeks ago actually we didn't. This was a different one. On April 22nd, I think it was. Anyways, just a few weeks ago, up in Luhansk, the Wagner Group opened fire on Russian soldiers. And let's see. They, different Russian forces, were trying to shift responsibility for their own tactical miscalculations and losses onto each other from the Wagner Group. And then a fight broke out between them because they were basically blaming each other on losing a piece of the Luhansk Oblast, or blaming each other, or saying you get support and we don't, or whatever. So they just opened fire on each other. 8 or 10, maybe 20 of the deaths that are on that ginormous, heartbreaking, terrible number of Russian dead is these guys shooting each other. That is not happening on the other side of the line at all. And the idea that you would want a country where that is possible, where that kind of thing is commonplace at this point, running your country is insanity.
Yeah.
I just don't get it.
And look, I think the numbers of 10 to 15 Russians dead for every one Ukrainian. I mean, look, at some point we're going to have to crunch the numbers, but I would not. If somebody were to present to me an full assessment of casualties at this point, and that was the result, I would go, wow, but I wouldn't be terribly surprised.
Right. Yeah.
And as far as turning on one another, none of that's going on in Ukraine, and it says a lot about the Russians that it's happening on their side, and we know it's happening on their side.
Right.
It's the Russians are just throwing bodies at this situation, and the Ukrainians don't fight like that.
Right. And that is the question. Are there 400,000 conscripts to be had in the entirety of Russia at this point? I call BS. I think absolutely not. And I think the call from Xi Jinping to Zelensky was a favor to Russia to try and back them down and maybe get China to promise them, we'll buy a bunch of grain and stuff if you guys just let them have Luhansk and Donetsk, that kind of stuff, and Crimea. Just let them do it, and they'll keep those lines, and we'll keep them at bay over the next little bit, and trust us. That reeks of it. That was the favor that Putin extracted from Xi Jinping, was to try and...
I mean, possibly. The other real possibility, and I keep going back to this with the Chinese proposal, is that it allows the Russians to shift the onus onto the Ukrainians being the aggressors. We tried to make peace with you. We were working with the Chinese. We were negotiating. No baloney. You're just trying to hold on to the territory you've already seized,
right?
And then try to divide the West. And paint the picture that it's, the West who's being unreasonable, the Ukrainians who are being unreasonable. When in effect, actually, what the Ukrainians are only after is really what their territory, their sovereign territory is.
Right.
So
we got to take a break. We got to take a break. No. But when we come back, I want to discuss a new wrinkle in the Nord Stream pipeline story that throws a lot of cold water on Seymour Hersh's single source, anonymous intel source business, and he's got to blame Denmark. We'll be back.
I haven't been to Nord Stream in a long time. Nord Stream rack, yes.
Nord Stream racks, yeah, that's where you get the cheaper stuff. It's oblong, and you're lucky because you're ill-fitting clothes fit you. You're the wrong shape.
I have the wrong shape.
Yeah, you have one arm, but one arm goes all the way down to the floor, and one arm's 19 inches long comparatively. Yeah. So, what I'm pointing at, by the way, is the fact that Denmark spotted the Russian sub in the area of Nord Stream a week before the explosion.
Yeah.
Less than a week.
Yep. 2 days, I think it was. September 22nd. 4 days. Because Nord Stream was the 26th, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it still doesn't prove anything, but at the very least, it gives you a
here's what it. Well, I'll talk about this on the air because it does is it absolutely destroys Seymour Hersh's timeline.
Yeah, Hersh, good.
Yeah, because what he is, is I'll save it for on the air. And Chicago, we don't need to do the happy song because we got less time. So with Phil, so we can just go straight into the bit.
Okay,
just come back regular. Thank you. We'll skip it this one time. I'll play it on my end on Wednesday.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Still getting the ribs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah.
We'll power through it.
Well, Johnny and I are testing a thing where we can play music together. So supposedly that fixes
coming back in 10 seconds.
Thank you. Fixes the gap. And I'm thinking maybe that's a workaround for us as well, because it does video and audio.
You're locked in to the House Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Welcome back. So, obviously, yours truly has had my theory, and I stick to it, that a pig destroyed the Nord Stream pipeline, a pipe inspection gadget that was sent in with explosives. And there were other things that were teed up to do it. You'd want to remove the cameras in the area. You'd want to take the sensors off if you wanted to not notice it was happening. And the story from... You'll recall our dear friend Philip Bittner. By the way, follow Philip on Twitter at Philip Bittner, 1L, 2Ts, and at Johnny Million for all your Johnny Million needs. And in the process of his story, he spoke to a single unnamed source No corroboration, but whatever. Who needs it? It's his source that's been feeding him stuff for years. So again, journalists who have sources inside the intelligence community that don't verify that stuff with other people inside, or don't have a second source. I'm just saying, I would get a second opinion, because people in the intel business might not always tell you the truth on purpose. Maybe once they've got you on the hook, they want to keep you there. I don't know. Anyways, and if they just tell you America bad stories and you print them and it gets you a paycheck, maybe why bother checking? But anyways, he put this whole thing out that the Nord Stream was blown up by the United States because a couple of weeks ahead of time, we sent in some ninjas. And Joe Biden signed off on a Coast Guard ship to go in there, and it was the SS Minnow was seen loitering in the area, 2 or 3 weeks before the Nord Stream explosion, and therefore a couple of weeks later, in spite of the fact that there are cameras and sensors all along the pipeline, that Russia has access to all the footage and all the sensor data, which they could absolutely release anytime they wanted to, that would clearly show the SS Minnow and G.I. Joe and Snake Eyes and Jesse Ventura from the Predator team and Carl Weathers, getting dropped into the meat grinder. They don't. I don't know why. But apparently the Danish Armed Forces has confirmed that a Russian special ship, and I love this, a special vessel for underwater operations, meaning a sub, was at the site of the Nord Stream explosion 3 days ahead of time. I think it's 3. Yes, a Danish boat reportedly photographed the Russian special vessel SS-750 off of Nord Stream. There it is, 4 days before the pipeline blew up. Now, if the SS Minnow and Carl Weathers and Dylan, I think is his name, it's not your style, Dylan, had been there a couple of weeks ahead of time and set a bunch of charges and were planning on blowing the thing up, and they were just going to do it, one would think the pipeline inspection gadgets, which they send through the pipeline at all times, and the submarine that was in the area just a couple of clicks away, a couple of within eyeball distance of where the explosion happened, would have maybe seen it. I don't know. Maybe would have seen the explosives.
That vessel, that Russian naval vessel, has a submersible.
Weird. You don't say.
Yeah, the thing about all of this is everybody seems to be taking from this something that supports their own narrative.
Right.
I have for months, I can't even remember, how far back, is that we need a full investigation. This does not discredit Hersh. I don't believe Hersh's art. I think something weird is going on with Hersh's article to begin with. But I don't dismiss it out of hand. Nor do I think that this Russian naval vessel, although this is a tangible piece of evidence the Danes have released, that also isn't definitive for me. But I'm not the one, like the guys who are the tankies and the guys who are, useful idiots for the Russians, have taken Hersh's article and said, well, this proves it.
Right.
And what I'm saying is, no, we don't know. We need an investigation. And first and foremost, an investigation should involve Gazprom. Why has Gazprom not released any data? Why?
Right.
If the Russians are so, absolutely sure that it was Western powers that did it, Anglo-Saxons, as Lavrov said, well, you release the data. Tell us, prove it, but they won't. And Hersh relies on spurious, one single source, which is incredibly unethical to rely on one source, especially an anonymous one. And then the Danes to drop this photograph. All of it, to me, it's just we need to know for sure.
Here's the big difference. Here's the big difference. And in both of these, in both of the arguments, what Denmark is saying and what Hersh is alleged. The Danes have a picture. The Danes, their ship took a picture of this boat in the area, and closer to the time of the explosion than the alleged group that was supposedly there that Hersh himself found no direct evidence of in the area at all. Even the rented boat in the name of Ukrainians that just kind of trolled through the area idea was earlier than this part, and therefore looked in many ways like a PR setup. Like we got some IDs off some dead Ukrainians and we'll use them to rent some stuff and that'll be that, or we'll make up some people and then they just disappear and that's that.
Yeah,
like it's just on this scale.
There's one thing that really sticks out with Hersh's article with me that bothers me a great deal and makes me significantly doubt the validity of it. And that is that he claims that, or his source, whatever, claims that munitions limpet mines, in effect, were placed on the pipeline months before a naval exercise was going to take place that would draw cover over the explosion of the Nord Stream. And that to me just sends up flares, because you're telling me for months there were munitions on the pipeline and the Russians didn't know it?
Right.
I mean, it's
an absurdity.
Skeptical.
Yeah, and again, it would be one thing if it was middle of nowhere. We're talking about Arctic areas. We're talking about places where there aren't a lot of patrols, there aren't a lot of traffic. These are high traffic areas, and everybody is keeping eyes on.
And deeply contested.
So they're always watching for whose ship is where. Right. It's fascinating. Let's grab a question or two from Johnny Million before we run out of time, too, because I just found that part of it fascinating.
Back at the beginning, Milkman Norm asked, how, if at all, is the anniversary of the Chernobyl disaster marked in Ukraine?
Oh, it's a tragedy. It's marked with solemnity. It's awful. And this year's no exception. I did the 25th anniversary of it back in 2001. Then it was,
So we've got another one here from Randalina asking, and this was a super chat question: will China negotiate a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine? What's China's angle?
No, they won't. They're going to try. They don't want peace. They want to, I say they don't want peace. They might want to try and position themselves as peace brokers on a global stage, but I doubt that very much. I think the better explanation is that my position, Ukraine and the West, as the unreasonable ones. The Chinese narrative that will be picked up by the Russians, and it will be picked up by the tankies and those who support Russia. The West is being the unreasonable. Ukraine is being the unreasonable one, and the hope will be that will fracture support for Ukraine. The peace plan is, there's no specifics. There's no real substance to it. It is basically just let Russia have the territory that they seized by force. It's not going to work.
Cool.
Let's
Johnny?
squeeze in another one here. We've got,
one real quick one
from
William
Decker. Will the planned Ukrainian counteroffensive involve any Leopard weapon system?
One more quick time. One more.
Yeah, say that again.
Will the planned Ukrainian counteroffensive involve any Leopards, new weapon systems?
Yes. Bradley Strikers definitely out on the front line. Leopards are going to be there shortly. Even the Abrams are being bumped up. Yes. Western equipment is on the front line now and will be utilized during the counteroffensive. It is essential that it is used effectively and properly, and that the Ukrainians make significant gains, because we've given them a lot of kit. We need to see results, and the Ukrainians know it.
Nice.
Cool. That gets us through a couple of them. Thanks, everybody, for being patient today as we dealt with the technical difficulties getting Philip in from Ukraine. But he will be with me on Wednesday for the live stream at infotainmentwars.com and at twitch.tv/HalSparks, whatever your source is. Like, thumbs up, support the show, subscribe. We're close to 50K on YouTube. I didn't even mention that because we had so much show today. And see you guys later, and you're wonderful, and take care, and we'll see you.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Chicago. And by the way, there's an article that ran in the Times from Elena Kovalenko in September of last year. According to interlocutors of the publication, explosives were dropped into the sea a few weeks before the explosion, and that the Russians did it. The sabotage of the Nord Stream 2 pipeline was planned in advance by Russia, according to them. It's reported by the Times. According to the publication, citing a source in the British Ministry of Defense, an explosive device, there was a gas leak on September 26th. Yeah, then that's how they knew. Gazprom suspended gas supplies to Europe on the 31st of August, and then just decided, we're going to freeze them to death. Even if they come back to us, we're going to punish them as effectively the reason. We'll blame it on the Ukrainians, and it'll help us end the thing. And
it will also send a very clear message to the oligarchs who were hoping to resolve this thing quickly so that they could continue to get their wealth from the Nord Stream and the Kremlin, and more likely than not, Ministry of Defense said, you guys aren't going to get any money off this thing.
Right.
We're and also you could, if you really, once peace is restored, you can restore that stretch of Nord Stream very easily.
Right.
But also now Germany is weaning, in particular, Germany is weaning itself off of, they've seen that being addicted to Russian oil compromises you. And I don't think they're going to accelerate getting off of fossil fuels. And I think that's a good thing.
Right. Well, and a New Jersey company just signed a deal with Ukraine to make 20 nuclear reactors there over the next decade. And with their nuclear companies, because they know how to put them up and manage them. Now, they're like Zaporizhia, for all of its worries about it being bombed, is a very functional, very safe, functional reactor. Has been running for a long time. And all the problems with Chernobyl were effectively an aspect of the USSR, and they're just kind of slapdash attitude towards stuff.
And their bad reaction to it, their bad response to it, and delaying it and trying to pretend it didn't happen.
Exactly.
That sort of thing.
And we'll no doubt talk about more of that. And Johnny Million, we have to break away because I'm gonna give me a little bit to set up, and then we'll try and set up our thing. I'll text you when I'm ready to go. We're gonna try because if this works, because if it works. Boys. Well, no, because if it works, it eliminates the delay between people talking to each other and communicating. It might be a good replacement for what we do here, because it does video and audio, and it takes out the delay. So that would keep us from talking over each other. And if it just works, I'd be happy. So and since it's a paid service, at least you have something to complain about. Anyways, much love. Thank you guys so much. And thanks, chat room.
Take care.
We'll see you later.
Thanks for listening. Have fun, guys. See you on Wednesday, Hal.
See you. Bye. Bye, Johnny Million. See you later.
Bye. Are you going to text me?
Yes, I'll text you when I'm up and running. I'm going to do it on the Mac because that's what my guitar stuff is.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Okay. See you in a minute. Okay, bye.
Bye.
And you guys, lovely. Thanks so much. Take care. And hold on, chat room. Let me jump in here. I want to grab something real quick and say hi to you guys in person. If I can. Where'd you go? Hold on. Is it just hidden under all these? I just don't care. There it is. Yeah, there it is. Just want to jump in and say, whoops, crap. Hold on. After all the struggle of doing the radio show at the same time is always an adventure, but I want to at least say thank you to you guys for hanging in there when we do it and letting us know. Oh, thank you, Flint. Absolutely, I will. I appreciate that. And I will see you guys later on. Hopefully this thing that Johnny and I are working on works, and it might be a good replacement. I'm always on the lookout. I don't get it. Some of these things, it's the nature of internet. And again, it's heavy lifting. I'm, getting internet from Johnny's house and Ukraine. So obviously I'm not just doing people who are like, my podcasting guest is 3 blocks away in the fiber optic neighborhood that I live in San Francisco. And I don't have those kind of guests. So yeah, perfect is boring. I agree. It's nice to be boring sometimes though. Anyways, yes, 50K by Monday. It's going to happen. How someone gave 50. Oh gosh, 50 gift subs. Thank you so much. What's the sub number right now? We are at, let me check my channel. It could possibly, I don't know. Let me go to your channel. 49.9. Still, we're like edging towards it. We're less than 100 away. I want it to, we'll do it on Monday morning. We'll announce it on Monday morning. Hopefully everybody subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Spread the show around. Love you guys. Take care. See you soon. Excellent. Yada, yada. Much love. Okay. Thanks. Whew. Okay. That's, oh, and another thing.